So you're bored at home and you're like, ah, man, I want to go out shoot, but you can't go out shoot. Well, today's tutorial is really fun. I'm going to show you how you can change an image perspective and make it go from looking like this into looking something like that. So let's get right into it. For today's tutorial, you want to look for an image that has a subject matter that stands out. It could be anything you want it to be, as long as there's a specific main subject that can stand out that you can draw the attention to. So that's the first thing. The second thing that you want to consider is the type of object that you're going to be using, or the type of prop. Now, normally when I use any of my props, I use either a cell phone, I can use a magnifying glass, you can use even sunglasses. As long as the prop has a frame, that's all that matters. So you want to think about the final composition, how that looks like, and then that will determine how you place your phone or whatever you use. How are you going to be placing it along with the background? So I took an image of me holding a lens filter. I wanted the CN Tower to be coming outside of the lens filter, and I have the CN Tower, a skyline of the CN Tower right here. Even though I was shooting this with my R3, it's still sharp, even though I'm using a wide angle with this, but I want it to be a little bit sharper. So I found another shot that I took, and it was an up close shot. So I'm just going to use that as my third image. In the description below, you'll find access to the entire raw file. So if it's easy for you to follow along, just check the description below, follow the link, download the files, and we'll go from there. So the next thing I want to do is I want to make a selection of all the images and then take them into one document in Photoshop. And I do that by Command A or Control A, right click, edit in, and then open as layers in Photoshop. I do recommend naming your layers. You don't have to be really creative with it, just as long as you're naming it with something that is appropriate to what is going on. If you don't know what a layer mask is, this is going to be a very quick intro to what layer masks are. I'll just have the first layer selected. I'll go down, and then this icon right there, it says add layer mask. You click on it, a white box appears. Now make sure the white box is selected and press B for a brush tool. Make sure your black is the foreground color. When I paint black, you can see it hides that part that I painted from this layer and reveals whatever layer that was below it. And if I was to paint white, I just press X to switch to colors. See, it now brings it back and starts revealing that part of the layer, the first layer that has the layer mask. So anything that's in white, it's visible. Anything that's in black, it's hidden. We want to make a selection of the entire white background, and then we want to mask that out to reveal whatever layer is below it. So I'm going to make the selection, just going to make it very quick, use the object selection tool, which is right here. And then Photoshop just scans the document and then sees that the only thing that's not white is my hand and my filter. Use whatever selection tool that you're more comfortable using. Even though I've used a quick selection tool, it still didn't select certain things. Don't just make a selection and then be done with it. No, you want to go over your image and make sure that everything is selected. So you can see here, this is not selected, this is not selected. So then you just want to make sure that everything is selected. With the layer mask selected, with black being my background color, I just click delete, and you see it deletes absolutely every single thing that's below it. Command D just to get rid of that selection. You just want to go and fix anything that wasn't selected properly. So I'm going to get rid of this just using a brush. With my brush tool, and with black being selected, I'm gonna make sure that the hardness is 0. Just gonna paint over the white part. Now that I've masked everything out, I'm just gonna hide this layer. I'm just Command T or Control T, and I'll just position my hand to where I would want it. Now the next thing that you would wanna do, I'll just make this visible, and Command T again, and then just make this small that it fits in there, but also you want to align it with the background. The next thing that you want to do is exactly the same thing that you did to the hand layer. You want to make the selection around the CN Tower and then mask out everything else. So we already see a problem here. You can still see that the old CN Tower is still visible. We want to get rid of that CN Tower. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hide this, duplicate this layer, by clicking Command J or Control J, and I'll just clone this area to the sky. So I'll just click S for my clone tool, click Option or Alt in the section that I want to clone it, and then just brush it. Just get rid of that. I don't need none of that. So I'm just cloning the sky to get rid of the CN tower. Okay, so that's done. So the next thing that we want to do is get rid of that part of my finger to reveal the background, which is the CN tower. So it's the same thing. Make sure that the layer mask is selected. With a brush tool, you can just brush it out. And it's okay if you overdo it. You can just zoom in and fix it later. So before I keep going further, you can see that the tones on my hand are different than the tones on the CN tower, then it's different than the background. We want everything to match the background. So that's the next thing that we want to do. Let me just hide all this. We want to match the background's shadows, highlights, and midtones to everything else. So I'm going to add a layer adjustment tool, and I'm going to add a curve adjustment specifically. I want to tell Photoshop what the skyline's shadows are, what their highlights are, and what the midtones are. And I do that by double clicking on the eyedrop with the black tip. That indicates my shadows. Just click cancel for a second. You want to make sure not the layer mask is selected for the curve adjustment. You wanted that it's the actual curve adjustment layer that's selected. I'm going to move this at the top, and I'm going to make it only applicable on the hand. Double click on the eyedrop with the black tip, and then just go to the darkest part in your background. Now the darkest part will indicate your shadows. So the darkest part, let's say it's about here. See, if it says it's white, that's because it's this that's selected, it's not the adjustment layer. So we'll just do it one more time. Okay, I think that's the darkest. Okay. Now, and then says defaults yes. And then with the white tip, that's your highlights. So you want to go to the brightest part of your image. The brightest part. And that will indicate your highlights. Let's see here. It would be somewhere around here. And then set the defaults yes. Now the middle part will be your midtones. And that's essentially if the photo was to go black and white, what would be gray? So CN tower would be gray. And the building here would be gray. I think I'm going to choose the building. It's more gray. It says defaults. Okay, now I'm going to show this layer again, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing, but instead of now telling it what the midtones, the highlights are, I'm just going to apply these adjustments onto my hand. So I'm going to click on the dark part, and I'm going to go to the darkest part. So I'm going to, click on the shadow eyedrop, which is the eyedrop with the black tip. I'm just going to go to the darkest part, which is my filter, click right here, and you see it made the adjustment right away. My highlights would be the white background. So I just click anywhere here, I know it's the white background, and it adjusts it. Now the midtones is what would be gray if the image was to go black and white. For this part, there's a lot of trial and error, so you really just have to click around and see what looks more natural, what fits the background. I do know by trying this before, it's somewhere around my sleeve here. I think that's about good. So what we want to do is have that curve adjustment also apply on the CN tower. So I'm just going to duplicate this curve adjustment, and then bring it right here, and then click on this icon right here, so it just only applies on the CN tower. I'm going to make the CN tower appear. So you can immediately see that the colors are matching more than they were before. So if I was to hide this, you can see it feels more natural. Everything looks like it was shot at the same time. Everything is pretty much done. All the masking is pretty much done, but there's no depth. Everything is in focus. So now we want to apply that depth. We want to get the background layer to be more blurry, and that's the final step. So how we do that is you select the skyline copy that you created and you just go filter. Now there's two ways of doing it. You can do the Gaussian blur, or you can do a tilt shift blur. I use the tilt shift blur for other applications, so I'm used to always using a tilt shift blur. I find that the results, even though they might look the same, I find them a little bit better. So I'm going to use the tilt shift blur, and I'll show you what a tilt shift blur is. Essentially, anything that's between those two plane lines is fully in focus. From the plane line to the dash line, it's gradually getting out of focus, and then from the dash line upwards, it's all out of focus. So what I would do is I would move this all the way to the bottom where the dash line is, and then everything now is out of focus, and then I'll just add a little bit more blur to see how much blur I would want. Now the idea is very simple. You want it that people can still see that there's a skyline. You don't want to make it fully out of focus, so you don't want to like go crazy with the blur. You can't tell anything. So add the right amount to your liking. It's, again, this part is very subjective, so see how far you want. I will add somewhere around, I think 70 is not bad. And then when you're done, just click OK. Believe it or not, that's the final step. But before you save on and take it back to Lightroom, what I'd recommend doing is just go over your whole file, see if you've missed something that you've masked or not. I'm looking at my file right here, and I can see I forgot the windows, and this is not fully clean. So spend some time actually going over your whole Photoshop thing, and then see my watch here, it's not fully clean. So go over the whole thing, see if you've masked something out, see if you forgot to mask something, and then just go over that. So I think I've spent as much time as I want to on this document. Honestly, the time, the tools, everything that you make, the more time you spend selecting something, even if you go to final detail, it might seem like it's not going to be noticeable, but I promise you it is noticeable. It makes a huge difference. So you decide how much time you want to spend on it. Once you're done with the Photoshop, all you have to do is just click Command Save or Control Save, and then that's it. No, it's actually Command S or Control S, not save. There's no such thing as a save button. But it would be really cool if someone creates a save button. Once I saved it, it automatically exports to Lightroom, and now all I have to do is just apply a preset or make whatever adjustments that I want and crop it. And that's the final thing that you gotta do. Crop is a tool that it's underused in Lightroom. Myself included, I used to not worry even about cropping. It's just whatever, 4x5, Instagram crop, sure, go. No, spend some time to see how to best crop the image to bring your perspective to life. If you don't know this, this will blow your mind. It blew my mind when I found out. When you click O, it determines what kind of cropping do you want. Do you want a Fibonacci sequence? Like, where's the perspective? Where's the focus of the whole image? I want people to look dead center into the image, because that's really what's going on. Everything is going on dead center to the CN Tower. And don't be scared to get rid of things. You don't want to fit everything into an image. In fact, sometimes the narrower you are, the better the perspective is. I think this is good because everything is centered and my entire focus is centered. I want to darken everything around it. Adding a little bit of too much of a post vignetting just to bring that attention into the center. And then I like to feather quite a bit. Again, this is all subjective, so what I do to my images may be completely different than what you do to your images, and there's no right or wrong, okay? This is the best thing about photography. And I think I'm done. I think that's really it. That's it. That's literally everything that's involved with creating that perspective. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope after watching this, you're excited and you want to create something like this. If you do decide that you're going to create something like this, I'd love to see what you create. So tag me on Instagram. I'll include my handle in the description. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, or if there's something that you don't understand, or maybe you have some feedback, or you see something you could have done a little bit differently, I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments below. One last thing, really, during times like these, it's tough for some where we're self-isolating, we're behind, like within four walls, 24/7, 7 days a week, and it can be tough. It's completely opposite than what we're used to. Times like these, we need to remember to like look out for our mental health. I look at social media and I look at it as a beautiful tool, really. So I think we need to take advantage of that and actually reach out to people and start conversations. So if you feel like you need to chat about something, if you feel like there's no one to chat, you can reach out to me. Send me a DM on Instagram. I'll send you my phone number. We can Skype, we can call, FaceTime, whatever you want. Just reach out. But times like these will pass, you know, it will pass before you even know it. Be safe, keep your social distance. Don't go out shoot, because if you go out shoot, someone else is going to go out shoot, everyone else is going to. It defeats the purpose. I'm just going to leave it to that and hope you guys are doing well. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.